Alright, well, I'm working on my Model A hot rod shop truck here. I've taken a bunch of parts off it because I'm going to run out to the sandblaster about half an hour away from here. But it's right on the way, going by the body shop where the Thomas rocket car is. So I'm going to drive out there on the way to the sandblaster and we're going to do an update video on the Thomas rocket car. So if you haven't seen my Thomas rocket car series, it was one of the first things I did on my channel. The Thomas rocket car is a completely handmade car built in the city of Batavia, New York. Charlie Thomas grew up in Batavia. He went to the GM Institute and he graduated in 1935, I believe. And this car that he designed was his senior project. And he came home to Batavia and he built the car at his home house garage completely from scratch and had it on the road in 1938 or 39. And so this car was ahead of its time. It's called the rocket car, but I believe at the time when it was out new, it was called the future car or the car of tomorrow. It's a two-door sedan, completely ahead of its time. It's got a full belly pan, it's unibody construction, it's got full fender skirts front and rear, it's got four-wheel independent suspension, hydraulic brakes with independent master cylinder, hanging pedals on the firewall. It had a periscope on the roof so you could look with mirror and look backwards, kind of like a backup camera we have today. And it had a Ford flathead drivetrain, engine, transmission, and a Ford rear end, but it was cut down with half shafts made out of, I think, Ford drive shaft knuckles, and so it had independent rear suspension. He took it out to the Big Three out in Detroit in 1940-ish to show off his ideas. And it was right before World War II started, and they weren't really able to make anything happen with it. I believe somebody bought maybe it might have been GM bought the patent maybe on the periscope on the roof or something like that, but he went and showed the car off. He didn't really get any traction with the Big Three because of the war, so he came back and he drove the car up to the 50s for his personal daily transportation, and his wife drove it, and the story goes that she was driving it over these high railroad tracks, and the car ran out of gas and stalled right on the train tracks, and she kind of freaked out. Luckily, they got it off the tracks before a train came, but she told Charles Thomas, get rid of this car. So I guess he sold it, and it disappeared for quite a while. Ended up in a junkyard in the late 70s. A guy out, I think in Lockport, New York, bought it and saved it, and it was pretty rough shape. And about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, a group of guys in Batavia area bought it and want to restore it and give it back to the city of Batavia. So I saw it because I know the guy that's got the body shop. I saw it when it was just sandblasted, but none of the metal work had been done, and it was really, really rotten. But I like the idea of the car, and I like the story behind it and stuff. So I said I'd help him out, and I brought it here, and I spent probably 7 months and 320 hours replacing about the bottom 12 inches of the car. So if you go to my Thomas rocket car series on the channel, or I'll put a link up here, or if you go to Instagram and put in hashtag Thomas rocket car, you can see all the build pictures, and I made quite a few videos. They're my early ones, but you can see a lot of the work. It was a ton of sheet metal work I had to do to it. Completely rebuild the entire unibody structure of the floor, the belly pan, the inner structure of the floor, the rocker panels, lower doors, lower quarter panels, all the wheel wells, the trunk floor, some fender patches on the front. It was a lot of metal work. So the car is in the body shop. It's been there for the last year or so, and it's getting to the point where it's going to be painted, and it's going to be the original burgundy color that the car was for the first year or so of its life, and hopefully it's going to be debuted at the Buffalo Motorama in the spring of 2020 in Buffalo, New York. So I'm going to hop in the truck and go to the body shop. We're going to check it out and do an update on the Thomas rocket car. Let's go see the rocket car. Bam, here it is. Let's check it out. So the car is here in the paint booth. It's getting about ready for paint. The final body work is being worked on here. The full front and rear fender skirts are being fitted. Just got to do a little work around the edges there. Getting pretty much final sanding body work done, and get another guide coated primer, get black sanded. Then it's going to be shot with the original maroon burgundy colored paint that was on the car originally. But pretty much looks All the metalwork I did is still there, hasn't fallen out yet, so that must be good. So it's looking pretty good. The front end's getting dialed in here. And just a lot of sanding and blocking and straightening out the rest of the bodywork, but it looks like it's pretty close. The sides coming in nice here. Got the rocker panels going, got the just working on the door jamb gaps here. Straighten those out. The body lines are looking good. Everything on this car is heavy. Here's the inside of the rear fender well, what do you call it, fender skirt. You can see it was made out of quarter square bar stock, and that goes up into here. This thing had four-wheel fender skirts for aerodynamics. See the wide 5 hub here and the coil spring rear suspension with a triangulated A-arm. Here this thing's got four-wheel independent suspension. Full belly pan, unibody construction. Very ahead of its time. It was designed pretty much in 1935 and built from 36 to I think 38, 39 it debuted. And built right here in Batavia, New York. Pretty much by hand by Charles Thomas and his friend built this car and drove it all the way up to the early 1950s. So I've got a whole build series. I did all the metal work on this car. It was really rusty. I replaced about the bottom 12 inches of the car, all the rocker panels, floors, belly pan, wheel wells, the whole trunk area. And I've got a whole build series on that. Be sure to go check that out. You can check it out at #ThomasRocketCar on Instagram, or you can go right up to YouTube up top here and see the whole build series. I'll put a link to that. And I have 320 hours worth of metal work putting this car back together, and that doesn't count how many other hours of body work and initial work that was done. So I don't know how many hours of work are in restoring this car, but it's got quite a lot of work. A lot of people worked on it, all volunteer work, to get this car restored and give it back to the city of Batavia. This car was very ahead of its time. It had a very sloped roof line. It had a periscope on the roof with a mirror in it so you could see out the back, kind of like today's backup cameras. It had flush sides, which all the cars in 1935 when this was designed still had fenders and running boards. It was completely slab-sided, something you wouldn't see pretty much go into effect on all the new cars until like 1950. It had four-wheel independent suspension, hydraulic brakes with dual master cylinders and a balance bar, so if you lost brakes to the front or the back, you still had brakes to the front, just like a modern car. Unibody construction. Had a Ford flathead, 1936 Ford flathead V8 engine with a 3-speed transmission. It had a Ford 36 Ford rear end, but it was cut down with independent rear suspension, so this car's got four-wheel independent suspension, which was pretty much unheard of in 1935 when it was designed. And apparently it's sprung to the point where you can take one wheel off and drive the thing on 3 wheels and it won't hit the ground. So it's really a really interesting engineering feat. Back here on the back, the taillights, these were a piece of like lucite red plastic with stainless steel or chrome trim that went up above it, like flush fit taillights, unheard of in 1935. You won't see anything like that come along until probably the mid to late 50s easily. But handmade flush taillights, really cool. Full belly pan from the front to the rear for aerodynamics. I guess this thing could cruise at 75, 80 miles an hour and get 20 miles a gallon, which was really a feat back in 1938, 39 when it was put on the road. They had a display at their local, I think it was Oldsmobile dealership, had this on display, and they had several thousand people come check it out when it was new. And that was pretty crazy back in the day. It's getting worked on here. Hopefully it's going to be the original burgundy color here in a couple weeks. And debuted in early 2020 at the Buffalo Motorama, so that'd be cool. Alright, so that's it. Quick update on the Thomas rocket car. And hopefully it'll be done here soon and we'll be ready to debut it and see what it looks like in the original form. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We're putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for alerts. Tell your friends. And as always, we'll see you right back here at the Quick Speed Shop. Well, actually, not here at the Quick Speed Shop. I'm on the road, but near the Quick Speed Shop. And for more hot rod builds, Thomas rocket car updates, anything else that's going on here. So thanks for watching.